Okay, after sorting out a bit of a technical issue with the display connector, we are ready for our next session. Up here is Samuel. He's responsible at Alfresco for the build and source management tooling. So if there's any issues with missing artifacts, for example, from Alfresco Nexus, he's the guy to talk to, and he's going to talk to you about managing the Alfresco source code. So, Samuel, good luck.
Thank you, Axel. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Thank you for being here. My name is Samuel Langlois. I've been working in Alfresco for 5 years now. I take care of the build, the continuous integration, and the releases. I'm based in the UK, but as you can hear, I'm French. Okay, I get there. Yes. So briefly, we are going to talk about how we manage the source code, the source base in Alfresco, how we do continuous integration briefly, and how we do releases. You're not going to learn much about any Alfresco product here, but you're going to have a sneak peek into how we manage things in engineering. So let's start with the source. So what kind of challenges do we have in Alfresco with our source code, with our source base? First, it's quite big. It's not huge, but it's big. It's overall 1.5 million lines of code for all products. That's without comments. So, of course, you think immediately of Alfresco content services, previously known as Alfresco 1. That's probably half of it. But there's much more than this. There is Alfresco process services, previously known as activity. But there's also a bunch of integrations. There's an iOS app, an iOS SDK, Android app, and Android SDK. We have connectors with various things. We have a desktop application now as well. There's a Windows desktop application which is being developed. So all of that makes literally hundreds of repositories. Most of it is in Java, but we get more and more of JavaScript, of course. And a bit of C++, a bit of C#, Objective-C. So that's very diverse and very big. Another challenge that we have is the management of the access rights. So depending on which repository we are talking to, the access can be either public, so for community products. It can be private, meaning that you need to pay your subscription to get access to the source code. That's the case, for instance, for Alfresco Enterprise Edition or Process Services Enterprise Edition. And there is internal code as well that we don't want anyone outside of Alfresco to have access to. That's the case, for instance, for the Cloud Edition of Alfresco. It's not only a whole repository that we may want to hide. In some cases, we don't want people to see feature branches or bug fix branches of a repository, even though the main code line is public. That makes another challenge. Another interesting challenge that we don't see much these days is that we have non-linear release lines. What do I mean here? These days, many people release apps or SaaS services or websites, and all of that is very linear. You have one version which is working at a given point, and the engineering team is working on the next version. And once the next version is released, you forget about all the previous versions. You don't want to hear about them, you don't patch them, you don't fix them anymore. In our case, we cannot do that because we have so many customers who don't upgrade as much as we would like them to do. So we need to provide service paths, and we need to provide hotfixes on all branches as well. And currently, for instance, the latest version is 5.2. We released 5.2.0 a few months ago. But as you can see on the schema here, we still have a 5.1n branch on which we released 5.1.0 and 5.1.1 and 5.1.2, and there will be a 5.1.3 and a 5.1.4 and so on. And I couldn't draw everything, but we also have a 5.0n, We have a for 2n, a for 1n, a 3 for n, and so on. And it's even worse than this because on each service pack, say 510, say you have one customer is on 510, and they have a nasty bug. And so because they pay a subscription, Alfresco is going to fix their bug. So that's why you should pay your subscription, by the way. In that case, we provide a hotfix to that customer. That hotfix will be called 5101. And it's based on the 510 service pack. It only contains this fix. So each service pack is a branch in itself and will give birth to a whole dynasty of other releases. And so, of course, at the end, the tree is huge, and I cannot draw it on a single slide. Another interesting aspect is that when you have this hotfix, so you fixed that problem for this customer in 5101, but one day, hopefully, this customer is going to upgrade to 5.2, so you absolutely have to merge and to fix this thing on the latest versions of Alfresco as well. So constantly we have fixes happening in all kind of branches, all kind of service packs, and being merged in various directions. And that's a bit of a challenge. So where do we put our source code? Subversion, obviously. At least that was the case a few years ago. So here you have the URL of the subversion repository, and but this is hidden if you're not an Alfresco employee. Because we want some part of this code to be public, we have an open source mirror, which is open, as the name suggests. Sorry, and we mirror one part of this code onto the open source mirror. So you don't need to log on to have access to the open source mirror, and you can see all the community releases and everything which is public on Subversion. That works fine. Then one day, magnificent new software arrives. It's distributed, it's amazing, it's fashionable, it's hype, and there it is. So, Git is amazing. I just think it's a very bad implementation of a good idea, but that's just me, don't mind it. So we are migrating our source code to Git, despite what I think. This is the current status mostly. So we have only two repositories, two source bases which are still in Subversion. It's first the content repository, so the big one, which is half of our source code, and that will be the most difficult to migrate. And share is still in Subversion as well. Sorry, can you still hear me? Yes. Having migrated to Git, everything else basically, so activity and mobile, as far as I know, have always been on Git. The integrations with various things, Centera, S3, Google Docs, and I think all of them are on GitHub as well. Media management, records management was a big migration. First because it's a big-ish code base, it's 100 or 200,000 lines of code. But most of all because of the history, this team chose to migrate all their history from Subversion to Git. So some releases that were previously made from Subversion, we can now make hot fixes on these service packs from Git. And because records management has probably 5 years at least lifespan so far, so we struggled a bit, but we went through it. And so it's now on Git. And the search code base was the latest part which was extracted from the content repository, and now it lives its own life in a Git repository. So it has its own life cycle as well, just like records management and all the other ones. If we zoom a bit on the content repository part, it's actually partially migrated to Git already. you may have seen on GitHub, there are at least two small parts called Alfresco core and Alfresco data model. Alfresco core is not a very good name. It's actually a set of small helper classes, and so it's not the core of Alfresco. It's quite small and it's quite easy to manage. It was easy to migrate. Data model is not very, very big either. Most of the rest needs to be migrated to Git. Shelan, Alfresco repository is the big one. I think there are 3,000 classes there, something like this, and it's complicated code base. So there are still questions as to how it's going to happen. We don't know how we are going to cut the different pieces because we cannot migrate the whole thing to one Git repository. We have to cut it down. And we don't know how far we are going in the history to migrate all of that. There's a balance here to find. There's a drawback. Either we migrate everything. If we migrate everything, it's a lot of work. And the repository, the Git repository is going to be very big. And in the old days, we were doing nasty things in our source code, like committing very big jar files and things like that. Things that we don't really want in a Git repository because it's not really designed to handle things like this. At the same time, if we cut the history and if we don't migrate everything, then we have a problem if we want to merge a fix from a service pack which is in Subversion to a service pack which is in Git. So there is a trade-off to find here. So ongoing. Yeah, another aspect is which Git server are we using? So initially we are only using GitHub, and GitHub is very nice. It has good things. It's very visible. All developers have an account on GitHub, so it's easy to find Alfresco code there because it's very high ranked in Google and it's where everyone goes. And it's easy for any developer to fork, to have a look at the code, fork it, provide contributions, things like this. So it's good. There are two problems with GitHub. The first one is that we cannot integrate it with our LDAP internal repository. So it's difficult to manage the identity of Alfresco employees. Alfresco employees have to provide their GitHub account to Alfresco, and then Alfresco IT can manage who gets access to which repository. But GitHub IDs can be anything. So we have an employee whose GitHub account is Subatomic Hero. Okay, don't know who that is. I do. Another one is called Killer Boot. Okay, so you see the kind of mapping table which can be funny to read, but it's not easy to manage. So that's the first problem with GitHub. The other problem is that it's insanely expensive. So we had to find another way to store our code. We installed a GitLab Community Edition a few years ago. That's the old one with the old logo, the black and white logo in the middle. That was probably a mistake. It grew organically. We now have a few hundred repositories there. It's an old version of GitLab. It's an old version of Linux running on our own machine. So we cannot upgrade anything, and we are stuck with this. So 6 months ago, we decided to do something about that, and we decided to have a proper internal Git solutions. So we had a look at 3 different servers. We had a look at GitLab Enterprise. We had a look at GitHub Enterprise, which is basically hosting GitHub on your premises. And we had a look at Bitbucket as well, Atlassian Bitbucket. And we finally chose GitLab Enterprise. So the server is there, and there is currently a migration ongoing between another migration, not from Subversion to Git, but a migration from the old GitLab community into GitHub or the internal GitLab Enterprise that we have. clear is that public repositories are on GitHub because they are public and we want them to be visible to the world. And private ones, or partly private ones, are on our GitLab. One issue that we have to fix with this, in the old GitLab community, we were using that as well to exchange code with partners, with customers. Support was using it to exchange code for support cases that they had. And we don't have this capability yet in the new GitLab Enterprise. So there are some repositories in GitLab community that we cannot really migrate yet because sign-up is disabled currently in this new GitLab server. We have to find a solution to manage identities of external people. In Alfresco, we already have too many such repositories to manage people, customers, and prospects access to our things. So we have this GitLab community. We have another one we have our Nexus Maven repository. We have our Salesforce, the support portal, and we have the community.alfresco.com, the community website on Jive, and I'm probably forgetting a few others. So we didn't want to allow sign up and have yet another repository of people to manage. We have to find the right solution for that. Another interesting challenge that we have is that, as I said earlier, we have repositories which are partly public and partly non-public. In the case of RM, for instance, they decided to put everything in the same Git repository. So in this one repository, we have one folder which is public and one folder which is not public, which has to be accessible by customers, but not by everyone. Don't do that, okay? I think that was not a good idea, but we have to deal with that now. So the way we do this is that there is a private repository on our GitLab, which is partially mirrored again on GitHub. So on GitHub today, you can find the code of records management, but the community code only, and the rest is hidden. You can still fork this repository on GitHub, and you can even propose a pull request, and we are able to bring this pull request back into our server on GitLab and treat it and accept it, and then it will, once it's accepted, it will flow back to GitHub. So it's a bit of a strange gymnastic, but we managed to do that. Yes, that's for RM. There are other repositories where it's the branches that we want to hide. It's the case for search, for instance. This team wanted the master to be public, and I can't remember if the develop branch is public, but all the feature branches and all the maintenance branches are private. So we use the same, but in this case it's the branches which are not pushed to GitHub. You see here that I deal with all the teams in Alfresco, and all the teams have different ways of working, different ways of dealing with things, and so we have to adapt to that. That's fine. What do we do with all this source code? Well, we build it. So let's talk a bit about continuous integration. So we use Atlassian Bamboo, which is the server, the continuous integration server provided by Atlassian. This is the infrastructure that we have. We have one server. We have 21 Linux build machines, which are called slaves if you talk Jenkins, but in Bamboo they are called build agents. We have two Windows ones, a Windows server and a Windows client. The Windows server is used to build desktop sync application that we have, which is a native Windows application, so we need Windows for that. And the Windows client is used to test it, because Windows client is not the same as Windows Server, and apparently it doesn't run on Windows Server, but it has to be built on Windows Server anyway. And we have two Mac Minis to run OS X, and that's used to build the iOS applications and a few other stuff. Okay, the one question that I have the most with Bamboo, I probably had it, I don't know, once a month, and once a month for the past 5 years is a lot of time, and it's, why are you not using Jenkins? When are you migrating to Jenkins? I even had, what's your problem with Jenkins? Why don't you like Jenkins? Okay, I have no problem with Jenkins. Jenkins is probably very, very good. Unlike Git, but Jenkins is good. I didn't choose Bamboo. Bamboo was there installed in Alfresco before I joined. At that time, it probably had 15 or 20 build configurations. And now it has 300 build configurations. So I'm not going to spend months to migrate that to Jenkins for dubious benefits. So Bamboo is here to stay. Sorry for Jenkins lovers, but I'm sure it's really good. One problem that we have with our continuous integration today is that because we have migrated a lot of things to Git, and because people are starting to use Git flow. You know what Git flow is, right? Yes, you do. Okay. I'll explain briefly. One idea is Git flow is a way of using your Git branches a bit smartly. So one of the ideas is that whenever you have a bug or a feature or something you want to fix, modify in your code, you create a branch, because branches are very cheap in Git. So you create a branch, you do your modifications there, and fix your bug, add your feature, and you test it. And once it's ready, and once it's fine and accepted and reviewed, then you merge it into the main code base. That's very good. It just generates tons of builds on our continuous integration server, of course. And records management is a very big user of Git flow, and they are probably using 2/3 of the Bamboo power all the time. And despite our 25 build machines, it's a bit overflow sometimes. So the project that we are having currently, it's been 6 months we've been working with a feature of Bamboo which is called Elastic Bamboo. So the idea is the following. It dynamically creates build machines on Amazon EC2. So when the Bamboo server realizes that the build queue is getting big, it asks for a new machine on Amazon EC2, offloads the builds to that machine, and it's just basically having an elastic way of managing your build machines. And when the build machine has been idle for 1 hour, or 2 hours, or 10 minutes, or 1 day, then the Bamboo server kills it. It's very good. 3 very big advantages. It's cheaper, because you only pay for machines when they are used. So during the night or during the weekends when the Bamboo server is not so busy, then you don't pay for those machines. It's very flexible. It means that you can easily switch from a very powerful machine to a very cheap machine, because with Amazon you have all these choices. And it's basically infinite power, or it's power to the limit of Amazon EC2, which is basically infinite. So currently, out of the 21 Linux machines that we have, 16 of them are fixed machines, which have a name, and 5 of them are elastic machines, which come and go as the server needs them or not. And the plan is to move more and more of our builds to be able to work on elastic agents, so that we can modulate the number of machines that we have. The request that I've seen more and more is to have a public continuous integration server. Currently, our Bamboo is hidden. It's hidden if you're not part of Alfresco. It's even hidden if you're not in engineering in Alfresco, so the salespeople or the support cannot see our Bamboo server. That's the main reason is that because of all these 300 build configurations, it's really hard to know which build you want to test. So it's hidden. Having a public CI server would be interesting for two purposes. First, to build a community product. So we could have a public build of the Alfresco community, for instance, or of activity. We build, of course, Alfresco community, and we build activity, and we provide the results publicly. But the build itself is not public, so you don't know when it fails, you don't know why it fails, and that could be interesting. Another advantage would be that it would allow to have a public build of the contributions. So if someone provided contributions to, say, activity, then that pull request would be automatically built in a public way, so you could see the results and you could see why it failed and fix it and so on. So maybe we'll have that one day. There's no immediate plan. Briefly, just one slide on the releases. I just wanted to show you all the things that can happen when we release. So releasing is not just pressing a button. The release process is that, of course, we provide release candidates, they are tested, QA test them, or automated processes test them, and then we find the one that we want to release, and then what happens? Many things, actually. We publish this release, these artifacts internally on an internal server. We publish it publicly or not on our Maven server, Nexus. We publish the release in Jira. We tag the release in Git. All of that can be automated, and we have automated it for some of the products. But we also have to publish the release on the support portal so that customers can download it. So that means logging on Salesforce, creating a fancy page, putting download links and so on. In some cases, there is a trial for that product. So if it's process services or content services, we have to update the download trial. There's an online trial as well. It's also on Amazon Marketplace. So all those things are part of the release process. And we cannot automate everything, all of that, or not easily, or it's not worth it. So depending on the release, we may need to do that or not. I didn't talk about the apps, for instance, iOS or Android app, which is still a bit different, and so on. So because it's very, very varied, then it's a bit of everything. And we have to do things properly. So we spend time to document everything. That's all I had for now. You can find me on Twitter here. If as Axel you have a request on that artifact is not there on Nexus, the easiest way to find me is to create an issue on our Jira. If you have questions, I think we have a bit of time for that.
Yes, we have a bit of time, I think, until the last session completes in the room above, because we have to wait for them for the hackathon showcase. So if there's any question, I'm gladly going to run up and down the stairs to give you the mic to answer a question someone about. Put your hand up if there's a question that you would like to have answered. I don't see anything. Oh, there.
Hey, how you going? When do you think you're going to sort out external authentication for your enterprise server? Like, have you got timeframes around that?
For the external, sorry?
Sorry, it's for your internal, to give external users access to your enterprise GitLab.
Enterprise GitLab.
The community ID project.
I don't know, actually. I'm absolutely not part of this project. Richard, you have an idea? Richard to the rescue.
We've sketched out the project a couple of times. To be clear, the proposal is only to give access to people who are otherwise entitled to the source code, just so everybody's aware. It's one of those things. We put together a proposal. It's in the list of executive proposals. We have an executive sponsor, but it's not the top item they're sponsoring, that sort of thing. So no, there is no timeline right now, but it is something that we're pushing quite hard from our team. And I think the organization agrees it's important. It's just, when will it be the most important?
So, any other questions?
Question for Richard?
If there are no questions, I would say, oh, sorry. You just mentioned him? Well, yeah.
So you mentioned there's more code with JavaScript involved, and can you tell us more about the NPM side and what other build process do you use to deal with the JavaScript?
So Michael is obviously an Alfresco developer dealing with JavaScript. Yeah, NPM is another challenge. I didn't talk about it, but it's a weird world for me, where your build can break for no apparent reason, and the error message is, what was the one? NPM colon weird error 8. That's the one I have, which I don't know what to do with. It's okay. But so we have to do with that. We deal with that as well. NPM, Bower, Grunt, all this new mysterious JavaScript world. Yeah, I'm dealing as best as I can, but I'm not a big fan. There was another question.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you a question, but since I'm one of those haters towards Bamboo, I'm going to keep it down. Thank you, great presentation.
But I could help.
Okay, any other new questions? If not, please.
Yes,
Oh,
will.
I was going to say, this controversial viewpoint, but who uses Jenkins anymore? Doesn't everyone use Travis now? There is a serious point there, in that one of the nice things about Travis is that your build is actually declared in a YAML file in the base of your source repository. So,
Yeah, Jenkins does that too.
does Bamboo have the ability to do anything like that? I mean, for transparency, and because even as an Alfresco employee, you can't see how the build plans are configured unless you have write access for that.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult to try and run it on your machine.
Bamboo has an experimental feature for that. We need to upgrade our server. But yeah. Travis is a good point actually. For the public CI server, we may use Travis just because it's there, it's free, it's for community code, so it's okay. And it's not Jenkins, so it will annoy Sergio a bit more. So it's nice to have.
We're trying out Travis with the RM GitHub mirror. So if you have a look at the community RM code, and if you want to make a contribution to that, talk the project, make some changes, you'll get a Travis build running and send us a pull request. It's green.
Oh, I didn't even know. Okay, thank you.
yeah, give a round of applause to Samuel, because without him, we would have not had our first release.
Thank you.
Du er længere og længere væk fra mig.